Welcome to Shredder Fanfic. Like, subscribe, and hype video. Join members to gain early access to new videos.
The main character, after dying his previous life, wakes up inside Naruto as an Uchiha right after the Nine-Tails attack. He joins Orochimaru's ranks and becomes his successor. What will a scientist inside of the Uchiha clan do?
Exhibits these traits. Ching's soul essence is exceptionally different. He is focused on truth, extremely rational and pragmatic, and enjoys exploring the unknown based on these characteristics of his soul. Therefore, what is revealed is the characteristics of deconstruction, tracing the origin, and transparency. When using Sage Chakra, one can easily decipher the fundamental rules of objects or energy. Its key formation pathways were observed. Discover some hidden corners. Therefore, after Ching's Sage Soul took over the body of a member of the Mizuki clan, it easily deciphered the secret of ice release by synthesizing Sage Chakra. After Ching's investigation over this period, he discovered that the core secret of ice release theory is the fusion of the chakra properties of wind release and water release. In essence, it involves fusing these two types of chakra in a 3:1 ratio during the nature transformation process, creating a unique arrangement. What you ultimately obtain is ice release chakra, which, when used through special hand seals, becomes an ice release ninjutsu. The hand seals are similar to those used in water release. Its form, however, is far more powerful than water release. However, most members of the Minazuki clan don't have much chakra, only a little more than ordinary ninjas. They don't have much of an advantage in combat. However, when they fought against the Mist Ninja, their ice release was very effective against water release. Therefore, most of the ninjas in Kirigakure are very wary of the Mizuki clan. Although Ching already understood the innovation process of this bloodline limit. However, in practice, it is still very difficult to do. In particular, since his true form only has affinity for fire, lightning, and earth attributes, it is virtually impossible for him to create an ice-style bloodline limit out of thin air. The members of the Minazuki clan are born with this physical condition, which allows them to easily fuse these two types of chakra within their bodies to create a new ice release chakra. This allowed them to use ice release without much hindrance. This is somewhat similar to Hashirama Senju's wood release, both being abilities that are naturally present in the cells of the body. It belongs to the power of bloodline and genetic inheritance. Ching discovered that if they wanted to conduct further research and transplant the ice release technique into another body, they would need to delve into the genetic level. This requires further technological support. Orochimaru's temporary laboratory can identify special genes, but it cannot yet isolate key genes. However, they're not far apart. Separating the technology is not actually difficult. It just requires some equipment support at the technical level. Examples include low-temperature centrifuges and PCR gene amplification instruments. In terms of technology, the people of this world do not value biotechnology. The nobles only know how to enjoy themselves and do not take many measures to promote technological change. It does not meet the requirements yet. However, with the extraordinary power of chakra in this world, achieving such a goal is not difficult. At least in Ching's opinion, he could make a few decent pieces of equipment, even by hand. After completing the mission in Kirigakure, he planned to set up a laboratory to prepare for research on bloodline limits and create a perfect soul container. The pursuers are so fast. Ching looked behind her with some surprise. A frosty white eyeshadow appeared at the corner of her eye. That was when he pushed his Sage Chakra to its limit, exhibiting the characteristics of Sage Mode. Ice release. Sage Chakra rapidly forms within the body to replenish its deficiencies. Stay. The newcomer was a ninja dressed as a child, about 1.4 meters tall. With a baby face, He doesn't look threatening at all. However, all the members of the Mizuki clan who noticed this person were terrified by the boy's cold, killing intent. They stood frozen in place, too afraid to move. Chapter 41. A Feeling of Deja Vu. Water, Lord Mizukage. Mizuki Ryu knelt on the ground, her legs trembling. Her once proud demeanor was now replaced by utter terror. He frantically kowtowed and begged for mercy, trying to get the strongest man in Kirigakure to spare his life. But Shuiying's gaze did not fall on him. Instead, she kept scrutinizing Qing's figure. You're a stranger. I don't think I've ever seen a ninja from the Minazuki clan like you in Kirigakure before. Where's your headband? Yagura, leaning against the hook, asked calmly. I'll hold him off. Kagami, you take the others and go first. If I unfortunately perish, please take good care of Yuki for me. Qing shielded the others behind him. These were important experimental research materials for him, and he had been observing two special seedlings for a long time. It will be of great significance to further research on ice-release Keke Genkai. We can't let them die here. It seems that sacrificing this temporary body is the only option. Upon hearing this, Minazuki Yuki trembled and asked in a surprised tone, Who exactly are you? Why are you helping me like this? She was unaware that there were still people in her family who cared about her. Didn't her tribe members all regard her as a monster or an alien? I am your father's friend. I was unable to protect him back then, so now I can only do my best to protect you. After escaping, leave the land of water as soon as possible. Go find someone named Orochimaru. He can protect you for a while. Qing said deliberately. The Minazuki clan member in this body is actually just an ordinary Chunin, a background character within the clan. It has no connection whatsoever with Minazuki Yuki. These words were something he had planned long ago. This was to pave the way for the subsequent abduction of the ice escape gene seed. Yuki clearly believed him, but Mizuki Kagami looked at him suspiciously, clearly feeling a hint of doubt in his heart at the name Orochimaru. Senior, what's your name? I can't help but ask, Mizuki asked, his hand clenched into a fist, his gaze revealing a hint of inquiry. There's no need for the dying to say more. You should leave now. Qing responded with a single sentence. With a wave of his hand, he pushed the two of them directly backward. He looked directly at Yagura. What a touching scene. It's just a pity that your Minazuki clan will perish tonight. Leave them all. Only if Minazuki completely perishes can Kirigakure be guaranteed to live forever. Seeing the deep affection and camaraderie among them, Yagura Karatachi couldn't help but interrupt. Behind him, two figures could be vaguely seen. Is this the special Minazuki clan member? Obito cracked his knuckles, propped his chin on one hand, and looked him over. That's right. His strength is probably no less than yours. Black Zetsu reminded him. Just now, by displaying only 3 ninjutsu, they took down the 5 Chunin Anbu who were surrounding them. Oh, that's interesting. Obito's expression beneath the mask was dismissive. His Sharingan slowly turned. Using his mental power, he directly launched an attack through Yagura Karatachi. Water release, great waterfall technique. Yagura raised 2 fingers of his right hand, took a deep breath, gathered the tail beast chakra in his mouth, and slightly puffed out his cheeks. Wow! A surging jet of water shot out of his mouth. It swept across the entire battlefield in an instant. They tried to drown everyone in the waterfall-like torrent of water. The movement speed of the several Mizuki clan members was clearly not as fast as that of the flowing water. Even if you desperately try to escape the raging torrent, They will be caught up in a few breaths. Because of his cowardice, Mizuki Ryo wasted the most crucial opportunity to escape. The first one to be hit by the rushing water was instantly swept up, its body emitting the sound of bones cracking, its screams echoing in the water. Ultimately, he was struck and killed on the spot by the rushing water. But the moment the water flow appeared behind Minazuki Yuki and the others, a cold glint appeared out of nowhere. Ice release, instant freeze. Ching made a hand seal, murmured softly, and pointed her fingers forward. The words fell. The water sphere that had been chasing the waterfall instantly turned into a ball of ice crystals, lost its momentum, and fell to the ground. He then changed his move and formed hand seals again. The hand seal technique, which I had practiced diligently, finally met the required standard. Ice release, 1,000 miles of frozen land. In an instant, the sky and earth changed color, with Ching's full power unleashed. Centered on his area, an extremely cold storm spread outwards along the ground, forming an impenetrable blizzard. The most unique application is the disassembly and transformation of ice release chakra. Ching was very fortunate that he had mastered the sage mode of Ryucha Cave first, which allowed him to comprehend the characteristics of various bloodline limits in the form of a stand. The nature transformations of wind and water chakra, when fused, transform into ice release. Then, when the technique is executed, it is disassembled, creating an extremely cold and blizzard-like environment combined with storm erosion, which can create an absolutely advantageous terrain environment in a short period of time. To put it simply, it's about controlling the situation. Kingsin knew that her close combat skills were weak, and her combat experience was not as good as these veteran ninjas. Therefore, they put a lot of effort into secret techniques. He brought the restrictive power of ice release to its extreme. Amidst a raging blizzard, Yagura shivered a few times, and suddenly a crimson chakra cloak erupted from his body, sweeping around him and shutting out the wind and snow. Outstanding talent, but it's mine now, Yagura commented. Water mirror technique. He swung the hook stick in his hand, and a mirror appeared. Then a person who looked exactly like Ching's double walked out of the mirror. Ice release, instant freeze. The person in the mirror formed a mudra with their hands and silently uttered a few words. The raging storm froze instantly. At the same time, Ching's body was also frozen. Bang! A heavy blow from the stick landed on Ching's back. Puff! Ching spat out a mouthful of blood. Without the Sharingan, he was completely unable to keep up with the Mizuki's movements. Although he had modified this body, the ice-style chakra within his body had been condensed to its extreme. However, breaking through the limitations of the shadow level is still somewhat difficult. After all, the original owner was just an ordinary person. Even though his immortal soul granted him sage mode and forcibly elevated him to cage level, he still fell into a disadvantageous position when facing the Mizuki. Wipe! Ching cursed under his breath and wiped his mouth with his sleeve. Aside from being somewhat weak in genjutsu resistance, the fourth Mizuki, Yagura Karatachi, possessed close combat taijutsu and ninjutsu that were nearly at the peak of the cage level. He even had the three tails sealed within him and was a perfect Jinchuriki, capable of perfectly controlling the power of the tailed beast. Sage art, ice release ice dragon descends. The ice release technique, modified from the water release, water dragon bullet, created a giant dragon nearly 100 meters long. The natural energy emanating from Ching's immortal soul endowed it with its will. Using the ice layer as a springboard, the ice dragon leaped into the air, lifting Ao's body and pulling him away from Yagura's attack range. Master, how can you fight in close combat? You need space-time ninjutsu. You need to keep at least 100 meters away. Sage art, ice release, soul freeze. Ao formed hand seals again, condensing sage chakra in his palm, which formed a snow-white light. The freezing light, exceeding negative 1,000 degrees Celsius, is released instantly. Call out. The beam of light instantly struck the ground, hitting Yagura Karatachi squarely and freezing him instantly. A clone. The frozen tangerines in Yagura vanished in an instant, turning into a frozen stream of water. Ching sensed something was wrong and searched around. Suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, he noticed a figure shrouded in a crimson-black chakra cloak, its mouth agape as it condensed a menacing chakra ball. Tailed beast ball. That was a quick reaction. Ching cursed, then flipped over and leaped up, his tailed beast ball striking the ice dragon head-on, causing a terrifying explosion that created a mushroom cloud tens of meters high. The shockwave from the explosion blew him hundreds of meters away. Buzz! Yagura Karatachi arrived first, appearing behind Ao, and suddenly swung down a giant palm of chakra. Coral palm. He tried to transform Ching's body into coral and tear it into chunks of flesh. But the moment he touched Ching, the chakra in his hand instantly froze. I've been infected. Sage art, ice release, absolute zero. Ao's lips curled into a smile, and his chakra suddenly erupted. A terrifying light emerged from his body, and everything within a 10-meter radius of him froze instantly. The chakra cloak, formed by the water-style chakra of the Three Tails Isobu, was frozen by this power. Only Yagura Karatachi remained, his hands raised, frozen in place, his eyeballs moving slightly in their sockets, proving that he was still conscious. His eyes were filled with panic and a sense of relief. It seems that at this moment, the fourth Mizukage regained his self-awareness. Tusk. Ice release is really useful. I wonder if, once it's developed to its full potential, it could become an elemental being like the ice fruit. That way, we wouldn't have to live in this awkward situation. Ching's soul floated out of the ice sculpture, looked at a masterpiece, and sighed. I took down the Mizukage in one hit. That felt pretty good. But the cost is also very high. He used Minazuki's ice release technique to its fullest extent. This move was a decisive blow. Even his own body couldn't survive. In an instant, Ching felt a gaze upon him. Realizing the other person's identity, he dared not turn around. His soul transformed into a stream of light and dissipated into the sky. The moment he left, the masked man emerged from the void, gazing at Ching's departing figure, and murmured, "That figure is so familiar." That soul. Did it use a spiritification technique? It seems this Mizuki clan member has been sabotaged. Obito. The plans for Kirigakure are likely to be affected, and the Mizukage may not be safe. What should we do with the three-tailed beast inside him? Black Zetsu glanced at Yagura's condition, then manipulated White Zetsu's clone to gently touch the frozen layer. The cold air instantly traveled along the point of contact, freezing the White Zetsu clone on the spot. Wow, it's so cold. Baiju exclaimed in surprise, extending a vine from his hand and forcefully pushing the frozen clone to the ground. Snapped. The ice cubes shattered. Along with the White Zetsu clone, it shattered into dozens of pieces of ice. There's really no way to save him now. Forget it, let's go back to Akatsuki. We need to go there anyway. Obito said helplessly. He glanced at the frozen water reflection, then his figure slowly dissipated into the void. Chapter 42, Kaguya Clan. On a small boat at the border of the Water Kingdom. Of the entire Minazuki clan, only 3 members survived to escape from Kirigakura. Except for a few clansmen who were on missions outside, all the rest of the clansmen died in the Mizukage siege. Minazuki Yuki's face was deathly pale, and she sat limply at the bow of the boat. 2 companions behind him were rowing the boat vigorously. The group had just left the dock. This small boat was stolen from the dock by Minazuki Kagami. They made no delays along the way, choosing to depart from a small town farthest from the mainland. It would take them at least 3 days to travel by sea before they could reach the land of whirlpools. Then they transferred from the land of whirlpools to the border of the land of fire. Once we get there, there will be far fewer pursuers from Kirigakura. Zhu, you really don't know that person. Then why would he risk his life to save you? Didn't he leave behind some backup plan? Another member of the Minazuki clan, named Minazuki Uchiha, asked with a weary expression. I really don't know him. Minazuki Yuki shook her head. She glanced at Mizuki Kagami beside her, and seeing that he hadn't exposed her, felt a little more at ease. That elder was probably a friend of my father. Yuichi Minazuki is a chunin, and his strength is greater than the 2 of them combined. They dared not put up any resistance. Where should we go now? Yuichi Minazuki asked again, as he had no clue what to do. He had been running around with the 2 of them, and thought that the mysterious clansman had some special arrangements. I never imagined that after so many days on the road, I would be basically at sea every day, only able to go ashore at night to get some food. Mizuki Kagami recalled the dying words of that mysterious clansman. Go find Orochimaru. Minazuki Kagami made a suggestion, and Minazuki Uchiha frowned. Orochimaru. That legendary Sannin of Konoha, didn't he already defect? Can you find him? Zhu hardened her gaze, touched a mark on her wrist and said, I know where he is. That was left to her by that mysterious clansman before the extermination of her clan. It subtly points to a certain direction. The outskirts of Misty Village. Inside a hidden cave. Uchiha Ao's eyes snapped open as he saw Jin Sen devouring several rats. Sensing movement, it raised its head, nibbling on a mouse, and muttered, Ah, boss, you're back. Want a bite? There are so many field mice here. I can't eat them all. You eat it. Ching glanced at it, stood up, stretched vigorously, and his joints cracked. He routinely activated his 3-tomo Sharingan to assess his physical condition. Compared to before I left, I have lost some muscle fat. However, the presence of intercolumnar cells means the impact is not significant. His out-of-body experience will not last more than 3 days, during which time the effects on the body will be minimized. This is experience he gained through a long period of trial and error. If the time exceeds 3 days, you need to prepare a sufficient amount of nutrient solution for your body to ensure that the interstitial cells can be continuously replenished with nutrients and energy. This helps maintain the normal life activities of the body's cells. Orochimaru summoned me here, not only because of the so-called ice release of the Mizuki clan, but also because of the Shiketsamiyaku corpse bone pulse technique. I still need to find some time to visit the Kaguya clan. Rumor has it that their bloodline limit also originated from the Sage of 6 Paths, or Kaguya Otsutsuki. I wonder if this is true. Ching murmured. He took an apple out of his pocket, wiped it briefly with his sleeve, and then put it in his mouth. Having frequently endured harsh weather outdoors, he finally understood why Orochimaru liked to eat apples. Because it is easy to carry, contains nutrients, can replenish moisture, and can be stored for a relatively long time under the same conditions. It won't spoil for at least 3 to 5 days. Yinkian, you should go back. I'm going to the Kaguya clan. Then we returned to Ryucha Cave. Go back and ask the immortal where the child he mentioned is. You can take care of him for a while, and I will take him back myself when I return." He gave the instructions to Yin Kaian. "I already have 3 children, and if I add another child with the bloodline of the Kaguya clan." Suddenly, I felt like I was the director of an orphanage. She's become Orochimaru's babysitter. "Oh, okay, boss." Upon hearing this, Yin Kaian froze. He had finally managed to get out of town, but he hadn't expected to have to go back so soon. There are so many delicious things to eat outside. "Boss, remember to take me with you next time you go out." Yin Kaian swallowed the field mouse in his mouth, curled up, and said. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned into a wisp of white mist and disappeared. Ao cleaned up the surroundings, removing any traces of human presence, and then quietly made his way to the Kaguya clan. The Kaguya clan originally lived in the central area of Kirigakura. However, their family later became too warlike, frequently causing violent incidents in the village, which led to them being largely ostracized by the villagers. During the reign of the second Mizukage, they were forcibly relocated to an open space not far from the village. It formed an independent settlement. Without the village's interference, this place has become an independent kingdom of the Kaguya clan. During his time in Kirigakura, Ao had already thoroughly familiarized himself with the environment there. This time, he doesn't intend to hide and use the immortal soul to possess another's body. Instead, they infiltrated the Kaguya family through infiltration. Because this ninja clan, whose minds are only focused on battle, has a worse reputation in the ninja world than the Uchiha. A complete brainless brute. Resistance to illusions is virtually zero. The reason their ninja clan has survived to this day is entirely due to the superior birthplace they chose. It has no natural enemies. If this were on the mainland, any ninja clan skilled in illusion techniques could easily have swallowed them up. Even the strongest members of the Corpse Bone clan don't have a chance to react in front of a master of illusion. Ao's skill in illusion techniques was average, but as his soul body grew stronger, his training in this area gradually revealed the talent of the Uchiha clan. Orochimaru's genjutsu techniques were basically already at a high level of perfection. They easily infiltrated the Kaguya clan. There were no obstacles. All the Kaguya clan members who saw or discovered him fell to the ground silently. He didn't linger around the Kaguya family's outskirts, but went straight to the Kaguya family's dungeon. A very special person is being held here. Kimimara, a member of the Kaguya clan who awakened the Shiketsamiyaku, Corpse Bone Pulse, at birth, and is known as the strongest Shiketsamiyaku in history. When he was born, he unconsciously unleashed his Corpse Bone Pulse, killing his mother. His father, out of jealousy, threw him into the family prison. They originally intended to consider him an ominous sign and execute him directly. However, Chief Kaguya stopped him and imprisoned him in the dungeon from the age of 2 months, where he could only fill his stomach with rice porridge fed to him by his clansmen. The Kaguya clan leader once boasted to the high-ranking members of Kirigakura that this person was the most outstanding genius in the future of their Kaguya clan. Many people in Kirigakura know about it. Ching also happened to hear this news. The purpose of this trip is to see this genius, Kaguya. "You are Kimimaro." Ching looked at the figure inside a dog cage. The small, thin person looked to be about 2 years old. His body was completely devoid of flesh and blood. All that remained was a skeleton. He had no clothes on him. He was completely naked. His eyes were blank, and he remained extremely indifferent when faced with the name Kimimaro. Before Orochimaru arrived. The boy has never had a name yet. Chapter 43, Kimimaro. Who are you? He slowly uttered a few syllables, and if you didn't listen carefully, you probably wouldn't know he was speaking. Their language ability is equivalent to, or even less than, that of a 1-year-old child who is learning to speak. It seemed as if he had never interacted with anyone before. The mouth can only utter a few simple syllables. 2 years old. They were raised like wild animals. These Kaguya clan members are truly beasts. Looking at Kimamaro's frail body, even though Ao had seen countless life and death in the laboratory, a trace of pity appeared in her eyes. People can dedicate themselves to experimental research and scientific and technological progress. But he felt ashamed of this purely abusive behavior. Would you like to leave with me? Ching asked softly. This child is being raised like a dog, with an iron chain around his neck, and the wooden fence he's imprisoned in has some animal hair on it. It's obvious that this was once used by the Kaguya clan to imprison wild beasts. But now they're using it on their own people. Such a situation would never happen in the Uchiha clan. Everyone in the Uchiha clan is crazy, but they all retain some humanity and are relatively friendly to their clan members. Even if there is suppression, it would not go to this extent. Ultimately, the Uchiha clan, despite being inherently evil, wasn't evil enough. In terms of cruelty towards their own people, they are less than a single hair on Kaguya's leg. A look of bewilderment crossed Kimamaro's face. He propped himself up and stretched one hand out of the cage, his thin palm revealing the white bones clearly. His skin was pale, devoid of any color, giving him a sickly appearance. His pale green pupils were filled with curiosity. Leave. He repeated the pronunciation of the word softly. What? He looked up again, and Ching gently grasped his outstretched hand. Her hand was icy cold, without a trace of warmth. In this humid island nation, Kimamaro's only means of keeping warm in the cage was a bundle of straw. He neatly piled them up in the corner. There were still some traces of where he had been lying. Before he was used as a war machine, he still retained his innocent and naive personality, and his eyes still held curiosity about the world. If properly nurtured, perhaps this can cultivate a good temperament. The warmth of Kingwei's hand made Kimamaro's expression stiffen. He subconsciously gripped it tightly, trying to let this warmth seep into his heart. This was the first time someone had ever been so close to him. There was no disgust or cursing in his eyes. There was only a comforting tranquility. Very comfortable. Kimamaro instinctively tried to get closer to Ao, squeezing himself against the edge of the cage, his little face distorted by the wooden bars. Yet they seemed to feel no pain, trying their best to grasp this sliver of warmth. Are you willing? Ching asked again. At that moment, Kimamaro seemed to realize something and sensed the goodwill brought by Ao, so he nodded earnestly. Ching smiled, a smile appearing on her face. Apply gentle pressure with your palm. Word release chakra surged forth. In an instant, the wooden fence twisted open a hole on its own, and a bar extended into Kimamaro's neck, prying open the metal collar and slowly pushing Kimamaro out of the cage. From today onwards, your name will be Kimamaro. Ao patted his head, picked him up from the ground, and gave him the name Orochimaru had given him. A child who is just over 2 years old and weighs no more than 15 pounds is incredibly lucky to have survived under such conditions. After achieving the goal, Ao didn't plan to stay in the Kaguya family for long, nor did he take any action against them. Keep them as a source of experimental materials for the future. After the Mizuki's death, Obito Uchiha had little foundation in Kirigakura, and the Kaguya clan was likely to survive, and even have a chance to run for the next Mizuki. Let Kimamaro come to take revenge when he comes of age. Reverse psychic abilities. Al bit his finger, squatted down, gathered chakra, and pressed one hand to the ground. Chakra erupted instantly on the ground, forming a unique black array. Hum! A burst of white smoke exploded. It swallowed up the figures of the two people. After the white smoke dissipated, Ching's figure had disappeared. When the Kaguya clan members, sensing the fluctuations in chakra, arrived again. Only one open cage was found. Empty chains. Quick! The monster has disappeared. A member of the Kaguya clan exclaimed in surprise and hurriedly ran towards the direction of the clan chief's house. At the same time, news of the Mizuki's death arrived. It quickly spread throughout Kirigakure, and as spies disseminated the information, it gradually reached the entire ninja world. The fourth Mizuki sacrificed himself while dealing with the Minazuki family rebellion. The ninja world, which had been peaceful for a while, was once again in turmoil. Longdi Cave. In front of the White Serpent Temple. Yin Kaian curled up nervously, head down, listening to the ancestors' question. He recounted everything he had seen and heard while staying by Qing's side during that time, without missing a single word. They talked for the entire morning. Finally, he also mentioned Qing's instructions before he left. Upon hearing this, the white snake immortal gently tapped the wall with his tail, making a sound. Mizuki's figure quickly appeared inside the temple. Immortal, you were looking for me. She bowed respectfully. Go and bring over that surviving human brat on the ground and hand him over to Yinkian. The white snake immortal gave the instructions. Mizuki nodded in agreement, and then she disappeared. About half an hour later, when he reappeared, he was accompanied by a little boy who was about 2 years old. Her bright orange hair was very eye-catching, and she stared blankly at the dark and enclosed environment around her, completely terrified. Yinkian, I'm entrusting this child to you. The white snake immortal pointed at the little boy and said to Yin Kaian. Yes, immortal. Yin Kaian just agreed. Before it could even take the child from Mizuki's hands, a surge of chakra suddenly appeared before its eyes. Ruijin looked over instinctively, her eyes revealing a hint of wariness. You're back so soon. The white snake immortal looked at the newcomer and asked in surprise. I thought you'd stay in Kirigakure for a while longer. Is the mission over? The voice just fell. She noticed a child being held in the newcomer's arms, whose aura was slightly strange. It has a bloodline similar to that of the Sage of Six Paths. Immortal, it's been a long time. A smile spread across Qing's face as he greeted Kimimaro while holding him in his arms. Come, Kimimaro, this is the White Snake Sage, say hello. He taught Kimimaro what to say. Kimimaro glanced at the White Snake Sage, was startled, and immediately hugged Ao tightly again, burying his head against Ao's neck, trying his best to get away from the terrifying-looking White Snake Sage. Is this the child you brought back from Kirigakure? You didn't just bring someone back randomly to appease me, did you? The White Snake Sage spoke warily, worried that Uchiha Ao might refuse the child he had given him because of Kimimaro. His words carried a hint of probing. What excuse, immortal? This is the corpse bone pulse bloodline limit that the teacher required. Don't misunderstand. Oh, is this the child you asked me to take care of? She's quite cute. Qing noticed the child next to Ruijin and praised him. He walked over to the little boy, gently picked him up with his other hand, and looked at Mizuki. Does this child have a name? Mizuki shook her head. How about we name him Jugo? Like a sage. Qing said a name and looked at the white snake immortal. Jugo, who possesses a naturally born sage body, will be an important reference for Orochimaru in improving the cursed seal in the future. Whatever. The immortal transformed into an old woman and turned to walk into the depths of the main hall. After making arrangements for Jugo, he stopped worrying about it. Double happiness. A smile appeared on Qing's face as he looked at the two little ones in his arms. Jugo was physically well developed, weighing nearly 30 pounds, equivalent to 2 Kimimaro. In reality, the two were about the same age, only differing in the month of birth, with Kimimaro even being a little older. The teacher's two future important subordinates both became his men. It has to be said that the nickname Snake Uncle is really not a problem. At least every child he raised was given a new life and escaped their original tragic fate because of Orochimaru. This is something that Qing greatly admires. Although Orochimaru is cold-blooded and has no concept of good or evil, right or wrong, he is obsessed with researching immortality. In terms of raising children, they are better than some parents. Just as Qing was about to settle the two little babies, Orochimaru suddenly appeared to the side, a bright smile on his face, his eyes full of laughter as he looked at Ao. King-jun, I plan to begin my first reincarnation tomorrow. Chapter 44, The Perfect Container. Orochimaru was not seriously injured during his defection, so theoretically he had more time to prepare for his first reincarnation. Qing was surprised that he had already made a plan so quickly. They followed Orochimaru into his temporary residence. They discovered that the place had been transformed into something completely different, and all the items and books that had been temporarily stored there had disappeared. There were no items left on the bookshelf. The room became empty. It seems they've been gone for a while now. Qing, I've found a new place to live. Would you like to move in with me? Orochimaru inquired. During his time in Yongji Cave, he did not remain idle. He had already arranged for several trusted confidants outside to scout out where to stay, although they have a good relationship with Rujido. However, Orochimaru also disliked staying on other people's territory for too long, especially since the owner of this place, the White Snake Sage, was a partner with ulterior motives. When are you leaving? Qing asked, his gaze falling on the two children not far away. Jugo's honest and simple nature had already brought him and Kimimaro very close. Jugo held a roasted potato in his hands, took a small bite for himself, and then handed it to Kimimaro. Considering that the two children are still young, and that living in the dark and gloomy Yongjidong place is not good for their development, the damp and shady environment is not conducive to their growth. Kimimaro, in particular, was very thin. In addition, after being abused for 2 years, her body was severely depleted. It's no wonder that Kimimaro died, young from a bloodline disease. Now, Orochimaru followed Ao's gaze and noticed the two little radish heads. These are the two children you brought back. Which of them is a ninja clan with the ice release bloodline limit? Ao shook his head and said, neither of them. The tall one is the younger brother, named Jugo, who was sent over by the White Snake Sage. The other one is a member of the Kaguya clan who has the physical bloodline limit, Shiketsamiyaku, that you mentioned to me before. Orochimaru paused for a moment. This kid has never carried out a mission before. How could I have forgotten all of his instructions? What he needs are members of the Minazuki clan. Why did I bring back two completely unrelated people? If this were a mission in Konoha, he'd probably commit seppuku on the spot. Orochimaru initially felt that Ao's mind was unconventional and suitable for thinking-based work, serving as a qualified source of inspiration and a research assistant. It is not suitable for doing tasks. But he never expected that Qing would stray so far from the intended course. What about the Minazuki clan? Orochimaru asked, subconsciously pinching his chin and slightly furrowing his brow. They're on their way. Those children are all too old. I'm worried they won't be able to get past the White Snake Immortal. Ao replied that everyone who enters Rucha Cave must undergo 3 tests, and he doesn't have the same influence as Orochimaru. Kimimaro followed because he was too young and posed no threat. Compared to Jugo, he was ultimately spared the White Snake Sage's wrath. If it were any other teenagers from the Mizuki clan, they probably wouldn't have had such an easy time passing the test. Can they find us? Orochimaru looked at Ao suspiciously. The Mizuki clan had been targeted by Kirigakure. How could those children have escaped while being hunted down by Kirigakure ninja? I left your curse mark on one of the key characters. It contains your soul aura, so no matter where she hides, she can be easily found. Ching replied. So, the reason you asked me for a forbidden cursed seal technique before you left was to leave your coordinates. Okay, once I've settled them in, I'll send someone to bring them to the new base. Orochimaru nodded, and suddenly remembered the time when Ao went to Kirigakure. After having a meal together, he specifically asked for a cursed seal scroll before leaving. He rarely used that thing. He mostly preserved the techniques in the form of living snakes. So Orochimaru gave Ao a summoning snake. What are the names of these 2 children? Orochimaru walked up to Kimimaro and examined his thin body. Judging from his bone age alone, he was at least 2 years old. But its size is smaller than that of a 1-year-old child. The white hair lacked luster, resembling pale, withered grass, dry and rough. His face was filthy, making it impossible to see his features. Only 2 red dots could be vaguely seen above the eyes. She looks like a member of the Kaguya clan, that's right. Orochimaru nodded thoughtfully. The name Kimimaro feels strangely fitting. Suzu, snake, Su. Kimimaro, who had always shown fear towards strangers, did not show any resistance when he approached Orochimaru. Instead, as if he had seen a relative, he tremblingly reached out his small hand, grabbed Orochimaru's trouser leg, and softly called out to him. Upon hearing this, Ching's lips twitched slightly. Snake. Kimimaro and Orochimaru really do have a connection. Uncle. Orochimaru was taken aback. This was the first time he had ever heard such a title. A slight stirring in my heart. Feel good. He reached out and gently stroked Kimimaro's head, saying softly, This child is too weak. If he wants to become a qualified assistant to you in the future, he will need to take good care of himself. Teacher, he is a natural-born Shikotsu Pulse Awakener, a child highly valued even by the Kaguya clan. As he grows up, he can be considered your perfect vessel for reincarnation. Ao explained that Kimimaro's talent was beyond doubt, and without a bloodline disease, he would definitely grow into a cage-level powerhouse. The power of the corpse bone pulse allowed him to reach the maximum level of talent in physical combat. A natural-born corpse bone vein. That's interesting. Orochimaru nodded slightly. His hand paused for a moment, and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. Was this the work of the White Snake Sage? As he spoke, he glanced at Jugo, who was standing there dumbfounded. The boy looked at Kimimaro timidly, his face full of fear and apprehension towards Orochimaru, and dared not come closer. But he didn't leave. Instead, he looked at his newly acquainted friend Kimimaro with a worried expression. He was worried that Orochimaru would be a threat to Kimimaro. Although Shija is only 2 years old, he already possesses a certain level of understanding. Shigego is a thoughtful and loyal person. Yes, teacher, this guy has a natural sage body, which allows him to automatically absorb natural energy and condense sage chakra. If he can master the method of absorbing natural energy, his future growth curve will be quite high. Airshiro picked up Jugo from the ground and brought him close to Orochimaru, saying, "The ability to generate natural affinity and the fact that it is most closely related to the violent natural energy of Rucha Cave makes me suspect that it is related to the White Snake Sage." Seeing this, Orochimaru said directly, "There's no doubt that he is the result of the White Snake Immortals research, but it's a failed product. That clan gained an affinity for natural energy because of the White Snake Immortal, but they did not acquire the Snake clan's genes and could not control this violent power. Therefore, when the natural energy in their bodies reaches a certain concentration, they will go berserk, lose their minds, and unconsciously destroy anything around them." It was obvious that he knew about the origins of the Jugo clan and had even conducted a special investigation into it. After it was confirmed, he essentially sentenced this entire ethnic group to death. Because of the White Snake Immortal, it's impossible for her to become his vessel. Actually, I encountered a perfect vessel among my subordinates in the land of fields, which is why I rushed over there so as not to be discovered by the White Snake Sage. Orochimaru also spoke in a low voice. He had his own ulterior motives. He wasn't on the same page as the White Snake Sage. From the moment he refused to adopt Jugo and rejected Jugo as a substitute vessel, he probably already knew some of the White Snake Sage's plans. "That child is about your age. The perfect container." Ching was stunned for a moment when she heard the word, but a name quickly came to mind. Uchiha Itachi. Isn't he still young? Besides, Orochimaru and Itachi Uchiha don't really have any interaction. Therefore, Itachi Uchiha is definitely out of the running. Could it be him? Ching then remembered another name. Uchiha Letter, one of the future minor villains. As one of Orochimaru's test subjects, he had sharing and eyes transplanted all over his body, but did not suffer any backlash. A fool whose mind is full of extreme ideas. He fanatically worships Itachi Uchiha, a traitor who wiped out his clan. He even adopted it as his spiritual belief. Utterly foolish. It was probably around this time that Shin was recruited by Orochimaru. However, this guy was just an ordinary person without any bloodline limit, so he shouldn't have been valued by Orochimaru at first. Orochimaru simply regarded Shin as an ordinary subordinate. Later, he voluntarily sacrificed his body, choosing to become Orochimaru's experimental subject, which earned him Orochimaru's attention. Uchiha originally thought that Orochimaru was referring to the perfect vessel, but after he followed Orochimaru to the base, he discovered that it was someone else entirely. Chapter 45, New Home, Zin Squad, Crazy Ideas. 3 days later. In a dense forest in the land of fields, Uchiha, following Orochimaru, finally arrived at their destination. After a lot of trouble. After entering the base and settling Jugo and Kimimaro in, Orochimaru immediately summoned several important subordinates and introduced them to Ao. Her name is Yin. Orochimaru pointed at the girl kneeling in front of him and said, she looked to be about 15 or 16 years old, with black hair and a baby face. Behind the girl were 2 boys with their heads down. They couldn't see their faces clearly. Lord Orochimaru, Lord Ao. The girl named Yin raised her head and bowed respectfully. Ching nodded without responding and looked at the teacher with a puzzled expression. The girl didn't show anything special, and he didn't understand why Orochimaru regarded her as the perfect vessel. Teacher, is she suitable? These words made the girl frown and look at Ching with slight dissatisfaction. How do you know about Oto's talent? She is born with an affinity for all 5 chakra natures, and her chakra reserves are 3 times higher than normal. Once she completes the injection of Hashirama's serum, her chakra levels will increase significantly. With his youthful physique and frail soul, he is already quite suitable as a candidate for first reincarnation. Orochimaru said, with a frown. There was one more thing he didn't say. Yin's soul power was weak, so there wouldn't be much resistance during the casting of the spell. For the convenience of the first experiment, it's unlikely that any uncontrollable situations will arise. Teacher, what's so great about the third Hokage? Having affinity for all 5 chakra natures doesn't mean he can perform fusion of all 5 chakra nature transformations. Ching said speechlessly. He never expected Orochimaru to choose such a thing as the test subject for his first reincarnation. A bit disappointed. How can an ordinary person without any bloodline limit be called a perfect vessel? Teacher, if you really want to reincarnate, I think it's better to wait a while longer. If we can master the method of integrating all the bloodline limits into one body, and perfectly integrate the physiques of the Senju and Uzumaki families, the eyes of the Uchiha and Hyuga families, and Kaguya's remains into one body, then perhaps we can create the perfect vessel for you. Ching put forward her own ideas. He knew that realizing this idea would be extremely difficult. Putting aside the issue of bloodline rejection, the current technology was far from meeting the requirements for gene recombination. These are all research projects that require prerequisites and consume a lot of time. Ching, that's a very good idea, but is it possible to achieve it in your lifetime? This is no ordinary research. I've already spent nearly 10 years researching the fusion of interstitial cells alone. Orochimaru sighed softly. He had indeed entertained such thoughts before. But he's not young anymore. Time has left its mark on his body, and the growth of his chakra has stagnated. This means that his body has reached its peak and is gradually declining. Just like when he witnessed his teacher, Hiruzen Sarutobi, gradually decline. He's getting old too. Don't worry, Orochimaru-sensei, I'm here for you. Seeing Orochimaru start acting again, Ching immediately joined in the act. Suddenly, I realized that this teacher actually quite liked to show this regretful expression. I deliberately stirred up his emotions. Teacher, after compiling all your research data recently, I found that in experiments involving interstitial cells, individual interstitial cells differ from other cells. Does that mean there is something more special within the cells that can alter their capabilities? Ching reminded him that although he was very clear about the role of genes and the entire preparation process, but it cannot be said directly. Orochimaru needs time to understand. Nothing is more memorable than personally isolating a gene sequence. Ching then gave a general description of a prerequisite for studying gene sequences, namely, to decipher the mysteries of cells and understand the substances and functions within cells. By disassembling the entire cell completely, we can discover the presence of genes. During this period, Orochimaru had already explored some of the mysteries of cells due to his research on Hashirama cells. However, his attention was not on this aspect. He was focused on the Immortality Project and had not yet systematically organized the previous data or further analyzed the cells. Orochimaru has exceptional talent, and his research progresses very quickly. One person can even keep up with the development of an entire era. In the future, they even independently created cloning technology. They created a clone army. Orochimaru pondered for a moment, then looked at Oto with suspicion and murmured, "Did I really make the wrong choice?" Yin suddenly raised her head and said with a firm tone, "Lord Orochimaru, you made the right choice. I am the perfect vessel. I am willing to become your incarnation." She glared fiercely at Uchiha. It was this man's words that had made Lord Orochimaru question her. "It's you, you bastard. Damn it." The girl suddenly stood up, enraged and embarrassed, and charged towards Uchiha. She placed her right hand behind her back, took out a kunai, and decisively thrust it towards Uchiha, aiming straight for his heart. Ching remained calm, revealing a pair of 3-tomo jade pendants. With just a glance, he completely controlled the other, plunging the other's mind into endless darkness, leaving the other's body frozen in place. Soul power is fragile, so it can be used as a practice test subject. With your discerning eye, teacher, this girl probably doesn't meet your standards. Ching commented on the girl. The evaluation is incisive. With a gentle push, the girl fell to the ground and lost consciousness. Orochimaru didn't reprimand him. Instead, he nodded in approval and said, "Kingjin, you're even more picky about your vessel than I am. You know, affinity with all 5 chakra natures is something that's incredibly rare. In the entire Hidden Leaf Village over the past few decades, there have only been 3. Namely Tobarama Senju, Sarutobi Sensei, and myself." Orochimaru revealed the truth, clapped his hands lightly, and his expression was extremely cold. He discovered that when Ching was collecting information on bloodline limits, he seemed to have forgotten a crucial element. Let me tell you something. If you want to go further on the path of scientific research, you must master all the chakra attributes. This is a fundamental requirement for studying forbidden techniques. If you can't perceive the changes in the nature of a certain chakra, it means you'll have a hard time finding a starting point for your research on that chakra. As you said, bloodline limit is a fusion of chakra nature transformation. In fact, only after mastering the affinity of the 5 types of chakra can we satisfy the research on further fusion and creation of bloodline limits. This is the premise of bloodline limit research. That's why I chose this girl as my vessel for reincarnation. Orochimaru taught him, passing on some of his experience in scientific research. Ching nodded thoughtfully. That statement does indeed make some sense. Teacher, I've actually discovered that there aren't just 5 types of chakra. There's also chakra composed of the Sharingan's ocular power and the life force of wood release. It's clearly different from the 5 types of chakra recorded in the books. Ching raised a question. He gave a general explanation of his understanding of eye power and wood release, regarding them as 2 different types of chakra, which he named yin release and yang release respectively. Combining the original 5 attributes, a total of 7 attributes of chakra are formed. If we master all the nature transformations of the chakra, and then find a method to fuse them, what kind of bloodline limit would we create by fusing all 7 types of chakra, teacher? Orochimaru's eyes lit up upon hearing this, as if he had found a completely new research direction. He nodded in approval and said, "Interesting. Very interesting. Your idea is much bolder than mine. If it were truly possible to create an ability that combines the properties of 7 chakra nature transformations, could it still be called a bloodline limit? The fusion of the 3 chakra natures of Iwagakure created what is known as Keke Tota, dust release. 7 kinds. I wouldn't even dare to dream of that." Orochimaru murmured. The light in his eyes grew even brighter. This kind of research is truly challenging. It allows one to while away the boring time in a future life of immortality. This is a direction, but it's still a long way off for us. Let's begin the reincarnation experiment. I want to see what the risks and outcomes of this reincarnation technique are. Orochimaru forcibly suppressed the growing thought in his mind, changed the subject, looked at his other 2 subordinates, and gave them instructions. "Asami, Shin, you 2 help Yin up and come with me to the lab." When Ching heard the name Shin, his gaze immediately turned in that direction, and he saw a handsome but thin boy shakily getting up, his face filled with fear of Orochimaru. Chapter 46, The Founding of the Sound Village. 3 years later. Country of fields. In a remote valley, several seemingly ordinary residential houses have come together to form a small village in the dense jungle. This village has a population of about 1,000 people. Deep inside is a shrine, its fresh red paint on the torii gate still wet. Several teenagers are working hard to level the ground in front of the shrine. Jugo, did you say Orochimaru-sama's reincarnation experiment was successful? A little boy with grey hair asked curiously. This child looks strange. He has two heads. Shut up, Zakin. Another voice spoke up, rebuking the brother for his recklessness. Practice diligently. The things happening in the lab right now are beyond our control. Our only task is to cultivate and improve our strength as much as possible. Jugo glanced at him and warned him. The group consisted of newcomers who had recently joined the village, and Jugo was currently the leader. With the support of natural energy, Jugo's strength increased the fastest. Furthermore, after combining the perfect 5-tom, heavenly curse seal developed by Orochimaru, he became even more proficient in the use of natural energy. At such a young age, he has already touched the threshold of Sage mode. He is currently working hard to accumulate Sage chakra within his body. As his chakra level increases to that of an elite Jonin, he will automatically be able to step into the threshold of Cage level. Although everyone who came here thought he was the strongest. He was only 5 years old when he already possessed the strength of a genin. But in reality, Jugo himself knew that Kimimaro, who was sitting alone not far away and did not interact with others, was the strongest among the younger generation in the entire village. According to Orochimaru, Kimimaro had perfectly mastered the Shiketsamiyaku corpse bone pulse and already possessed the strength of a Jonin. After silencing the surrounding chatter, Jugo walked to Kimimaro's side and asked, Kimimaro, have you already begun your training with Lord Ao? When Yoko was raising them, he set a standard. As long as their chakra reserves and control reached the minimum requirements for Jonin, he would take them with him for training. For the past 3 years, aside from eating and sleeping, the two of them have been working hard to increase their chakra levels. Lord Ao was busy helping Lord Orochimaru cultivate his reincarnation body. Not yet. I will only be taken out for training after Master Qing finishes this experiment. I wonder if Master Qing has created a perfect reincarnation vessel based on cloning technology. Kimimaro replied, glancing at the setting sun on the horizon, recalling what Ao had told him a few days ago. It's been 3 days. The experimental results should be out soon. Jugo patted Kimimaro on the shoulder, offering words of comfort. He knew that Kimimaro had always wanted to go out for a walk, but without Lord Ao's permission, they could only stay inside the shrine. Kimimaro's body has recovered quite well. Although he is not as robust as Jugo, he is now the same height as Jugo. Hey kid, where's Qing? I'm back from a mission, and these are some kids I brought back from outside. A man with bandages wrapped around his body and a mask on his face returned from outside and called out to the children who were leveling the ground. Behind him followed 3 children. Jugo glanced at him. Qing is busy. Leave the person to me. The man glanced at him, his eyes full of disdain. You can take responsibility. This is an important person that Lord Orochimaru specifically requested. Although Jugo is exceptionally talented among the younger generation and is considered a steady and reliable individual, in the eyes of Orochimaru's old subordinates, he is merely an experimental subject. He was by no means an important figure. Many people in the Sound Village didn't take him seriously. Before Lord Zhu returned, I was in charge of the younger generation in the entire village. I answered in a deep voice, Shija replied. At 5 years old, he already possesses the air of someone who can stand on his own, thanks to Qing's guidance. He will manage all the young people, arranging their daily practice and work. In the entire Sound Village, everyone except children under 2 years old needs to complete training or work tasks in order to have food. Those who disobey will be driven out of the village. "You brat, you're nothing but a kept dog." The bandaged man tried to make a few more sarcastic remarks, but suddenly noticed a figure in the distance, and his body trembled. Minazuki Yuki came to Jugo's side and asked, "What happened?" "Sister Zhu, these are some children that Kazuo Kato brought back. They need to be handed over to the village." Jugo replied, without saying anything more. Many people in the village were Orochimaru's former subordinates in Konoha, and some were rogue ninja recruited from the surrounding areas. The vast majority of them have an unruly personality. They might take action if anything goes wrong. As long as they don't cause trouble in the village, Orochimaru won't interfere. When Lord Ao was alive, he dealt with these people, which made the village of Otagakure appear much more harmonious. But now that Lord Ao is gone, they have reverted to their old ways. 2 years ago, Minazuki Yuki came to the land of rice fields alone and joined the small village founded by Orochimaru. He became a Kada who stayed in the village. She is mainly responsible for various affairs of the village's orphanage and also serves as a shrine maiden at the shrine. All the children brought back from outside would be gathered at the shrine and raised there, where they would be taught some basic ninja training. The villagers like to come to the shrine, mainly because of Minazuki Yuki. She has a sweet appearance and a cool personality, which attracts many people's admiration. Get lost. Zhu knew the nature of these rogue ninjas well, and knew they were nothing more than tools in Lord Qing's hands, so she didn't give them a friendly look. If it weren't for the worry of ruining Master Qing's plans, she had already killed all those disgusting bastards long ago. Upon hearing these words, the Chunin named Kato Kazuo immediately left without stopping. Minazuki Yuki squatted down and carefully examined the 3 children in front of her. "What are your names?" "My name is Jirobo." "My name is Kad Ikiro." "My name is Geniamaru." The children took turns saying their names. When Zhu heard the name Huan Yaowen, her gaze suddenly turned towards it. Lord Orochimaru once mentioned this name. It seems to be the heir of the Genyu family, possessing outstanding physical talent. I wonder how he differs from Jugo. Genyu Maru is a boy with grey-white hair. He looked to be only 6 or 7 years old. There were traces of chakra fluctuations within him. He appeared thin, but his eyes were filled with hatred. "You've trained in chakra?" Mizuki Yuki asked. I am a member of the illusionary ghost clan." Huan Yaowen replied coldly. The entire family was arrested, and he was chosen to come here, not knowing what fate awaited him. But for the safety of his family, he could not offer any resistance. Looking into his hateful eyes, Mizuki Yuki inexplicably recalled the image of Mizuki Kagami. "It's been a long time since I've heard anything about Kirigakure. I wonder if Kagami is still alive." He, like the child, was blinded by hatred. Yuki couldn't help but think back to when they first arrived in the Land of Fire, when the 3 surviving members of the once close-knit group, Minazuki, eventually turned against each other. She joined forces with Minazuki Kagami to eliminate the older member of the Minazuki clan. They eventually broke up on the spot. Kagami chose to become a wandering ninja, and she arrived at Otagakure following the guidance of the Cursed Seal. "Come with me. I'll arrange a place for you to stay for now." Minazuki Yuki gathered a few children and was about to lead them to settle down. Suddenly, a commotion came from outside the village. "Enemy attack." A loud warning rang out. Chapter 40, Seven Pains Attack, Sasori's Surprise. Mizuki Yuki immediately recognized that this was Ishida Moriyoshi, the Jonin captain in charge of perimeter security, a wandering ninja that Orochimaru had gathered in the black market, and who must have been a ninja from Iwagakure in the past. Skilled in earth release ninjutsu, he built a complete defensive fortification around the village. The Sound Village is still very weak, with fewer than 100 ninjas. Apart from Orochimaru and Ao, there are only 3 Jonin who are responsible for laboratory security, village security, and missions. Jugo Kimimaro. Immediately take everyone to the shrine's basement and hide. Minazuki Yuki immediately gave the order. She then flashed away, becoming a blur, and ran out of the village. Kimimaro paused for a moment, then looked at Jugo with a deep gaze. Keep them in check. I'm going out with Sister Zhu. Without hesitation, he followed them. Outside the village. The entrance to the Grand Canyon. 2 men dressed in long robes with black backgrounds and red cloud patterns were standing at the doorway. One of the men with orange hair had black iron nails on his face and looked bloodless, not like a living person. The Jonin Ishida Moriyoshi, who was defending the perimeter, was lifeless in the man's hands. Where is Orochimaru? The man looked at the newly appeared Minazuki Yuki and asked expressionlessly, Who are you? Mizuki Yuki felt a chill run down her spine, intimidated by the man's imposing aura. She forced herself to stand up and questioned him. He made a handprint in his hand. A wisp of frost slowly condensed. Ice release, 1,000 needle kill. She slammed her hands on the ground, creating a white, icy mirror that shot out tens of millions of ice needles, enveloping the entire battlefield and heading straight for the mysterious figure. Shinra Tensei. Pain made no unnecessary movements. He simply placed his right hand slightly in front of his chest and with a single gesture deflected all the ice needles back. Minazuki Yuki didn't react for a moment. His body was completely enveloped by ice needles. Just as she was about to be injured, a small figure appeared in front of her. Corpse bone pulse, breath of bones. A white bone instantly emerged from Kimimaro's body, forming a bone shield several meters wide that concealed the 2 figures within and blocked all the ice needles. Interesting. I didn't expect that this small village would hide 2 kinds of ninjas with bloodline limit talents. What are your names? Pain asked. The talent displayed by the 2 individuals piqued his interest. Ice release, corpse bone pulse. He was famous in the ninja world. Leave immediately. Minazuki Yuki shouted, secretly determined to protect the village at all costs and ensure that Lord Orochimaru's experiments would not be affected in any way. She condensed all her chakra in her palm, and the surrounding environment decreased by several degrees as her chakra appeared. Ice release, secret technique, demonic mirror ice crystals. The moment the hand seals were completed, an ice crystal mirror instantly appeared from all around and quickly spread to dozens of pieces, covering the entire battlefield and trapping the enemy. At this moment, Zhu's figure also merged into the ice mirror. Ice release, ice prison technique. Suddenly, snow appeared behind Pain, condensing a chilling aura in her palm to create an ice crystal cage that bound the enemy. Overestimating yourself. Pain commented coldly. He mobilized his chakra once more, and Shinra Tensei reappeared, directly crushing all the frost mirrors and ice crystal cages. Faced with absolute power, these fancy moves serve no purpose whatsoever. Minazuki Yuki's figure appeared in the shattered mirror like a kite with a broken string, and then flew backwards for dozens of meters. His entire body was cut by several pieces of broken glass. The two sides are enemies on completely different levels. Just when Pain thought he had dealt with the enemy, a skeleton suddenly emerged from the ground. The corpse bone pulse bone forest descends. Kimamaro's cold voice came from within his bones, and in an instant, countless sharp needles surged from the ground, enveloping everyone in them. This is interesting. This technique. It's kind of like Tree World Advent. The mysterious dwarf man beside Pain finally spoke up, his eyes constantly scrutinizing Kimamaro's small appearance. Kimamaro, having just finished casting the spell, was so exhausted that he collapsed to the ground. However, the scale of this technique, which is only about 10 meters, has already reached the standard of grade A or above. That's standard equipment for tune-in. This kid looks like he's only 4 or 5 years old. To possess such a massive amount of chakra at such a young age, its future potential is considerable. Sasori exclaimed, realizing that this was the first time he had ever been interested in a child like Kimamaro. It's a pity he became Orochimaru's test subject. His research was all substandard. I wonder if he was poisoned by Orochimaru's ideas. Pain's body floated lightly in the air as the bone spikes protruded, looking down at the crowd below. Orochimaru, how long are you going to hide? Since you intend to send your men to their deaths, then I'll grant your wish. He was bored with this cat-and-mouse game. Gently lift with both hands. They planned to raise the entire village to the ground to force Orochimaru to come out. Super Shinra. Just as he was about to finish speaking. Sage art, fire release fiery dragon piercing the sky. A cold voice suddenly rang out from not far away. A purple-blue fire dragon appeared out of thin air, 100 meters long and more than 10 meters in diameter, its massive body heading straight for where Pain was. A heat wave swept across the entire battlefield, blotting out the sun. It instantly covered Pain's entire body. Uchiha Ao's figure slowly appeared on a large tree, watching the entire battlefield, his hand still bearing the hand seals used for casting spells. A light blue eyeshadow appeared at the corner of her eyes. This proves that he has now unleashed his full power and entered Sage mode. The Sharingan with its 3 tomo in his eyes was fixed on the location where Pain was. I just finished the experiment, and I didn't expect to be attacked by Pain. Teacher, you've really left me with a big problem. I didn't expect to wait 3 years without seeing the Akatsuki, only to have them show up at my door during the experiment. Ching remembers this incident. In order to strengthen the Akatsuki organization, Pain continuously recruited powerful rogue ninja. Orochimaru, one of the legendary Sannin, was no exception. The reason they haven't come looking for him all these years is most likely because Orochimaru has been preparing for reincarnation experiments, keeping a low profile and not showing his face. But after hiding for 3 years, they still came knocking on their door. Orochimaru had just completed his reincarnation and was still familiarizing himself with his body, so he didn't have much combat ability at the moment. All the techniques he has spent years proving are embodied in this reincarnation vessel. It's impossible for Pain's appearance to ruin the results of this experiment. Uchiha clan members. You must be Uchiha Ao, the ninja who defected from the Uchiha clan to follow Orochimaru. But judging from the strength you've displayed, you don't seem like the A-rank rogue ninja Konoha described. They've grown so fast in just 2 or 3 years. Pain's figure slowly floated up from a distance, and the flaming dragon under his palm was like a docile loach. With a gentle squeeze of his palm, the entire fiery dragon fell into the forest on the ground, igniting a raging fire. Immortal magic. None of them worked. Ao's heart sank as he gained a deeper understanding of Pain, a powerhouse at the cage level. That was his strongest attack. Even with the combined power of Fire Release Chakra Nature Transformation and Sage Mode Chakra, Pain was still no match for Deva Path. Interested in joining us? Pain suddenly spoke up, extending an invitation to Uchiha Ao. Chapter 48, Full Power Unleashed, Tearing Pain Apart. Join the Akatsuki. Ching had no interest whatsoever. However, he did not directly refuse Pain. The guy in front of me is just an ordinary puppet, the same kind of puppet as Sasori next to me. Uchiha Ao had no intention of spending his days running around on missions to earn money. Although the village of Otagakure is currently facing a large financial deficit, it is entirely reliant on Orochimaru's past savings to stay afloat. However, as long as you monetize your skills and operate them properly, making money in this era is not too difficult. The simplest approach is to improve crops. Once the genetic technology in hand matures, it will be able to cultivate a batch of high-yield crops, sell this technology to major countries, and make a lot of money. The basic foundation for research on gene recombination is now largely in place. With the aid of ninjutsu, many critical pieces of equipment have found alternatives. The conditions for starting the experiment have been met. Ching had already made a plan in mind. After completing Orochimaru's reincarnation experiment, they began the bloodline elimination fusion experiment of the 3 chakra natures. The experimental target was Kimimaro. While helping him complete his bloodline limit evolution, it also eliminates the hidden dangers of his bloodline disease. Boss, this Uchiha brat doesn't seem happy about it. Sasori of the Red Sand stood by, tending the fire. He couldn't stand Uchiha Ao's aloof attitude, as if he looked down on everyone from a high place. He seemed to see everyone as an idiot. His eyes were full of disdain. Pain didn't say much, but simply raised his hand, and a black chakra rod appeared in his palm. Universal guidance. A tremendous gravitational force appeared on Uchiha Ao's body. He and everything around him were pulled into the air and headed straight for Pain's location. Ching tried to break free. However, they found that their bodies were difficult to move under this force. Sage Art would release Descent of the Tree World. Ao could only form hand seals, creating a forest on the ground, and use the power of wood release vines to dodge the attack. Ching concealed his figure within the wood release forest. With the blessing of Sage Chakra, the area affected by the tree's arrival expanded to several hundred meters. It also possesses a more agile form and the ability to absorb chakra and petrify enemies. However, Pain swung his black chakra rods, deflecting all of the tree world's attacks. During the process, Pain paused for a moment. Uchiha Ao instantly seized upon this opening. Didn't use Shinra Tensei. Is your chakra running low? Ching murmured. It seems that the fire release Sage technique just now wasn't entirely useless. It at least consumed a large amount of Pain's chakra. This temporarily prevented him from using Shinra Tensei. Ching made a rough estimate. It took about 20 seconds. That's a tricky guy. Ching murmured. He dared not use the spirit transformation technique and directly transformed into his strongest sage form to fight, because Pain's 6 paths possess the power to absorb souls. Pain's Deva Path ability is singular, but there's no guarantee that Nagato behind him won't discover it and suddenly summon the human path. Once in a soul state, he had absolutely no ability to defend himself. I've found your weakness. Shadow of the mortal realm. Ching sneered, and his 3 tomo Sharingan instantly released its ocular power. They attempted to disrupt Pain's actions using illusions. However, the other party was unaffected and easily discovered his whereabouts, forcing Ching, who was already lurking behind Pain, to retreat again. Illusion magic is ineffective. Wipe. That's really troublesome. Ching cursed under his breath. The appearance of the Rinnegan is a great counter to the Sharingen. Ching abandoned the illusion attack. There's no need to waste your eye power for no reason. He could only do his best to control the wood vines to attack and delay Pain's advance. After a period of observation, Ao finally discovered some of Pain's weaknesses. Pain was not familiar with the characteristics of wood release, and Shinra Tensei also had a brief gap in its execution. A battle plan immediately came to his mind. Seeing that the opportunity on the battlefield had arrived, he formed hand seals. Once more the instant Pain unleashed Shinra Tensei. Sage art, wood release, wood dragon technique. He studied the first Hokage fighting style and believed that both advent of the tree world and advent of the flower tree world were large-scale ninjutsu for controlling the field, mainly used to modify the environment and absorb a large amount of free natural energy. Then, by harnessing the vast amount of natural energy gathered on the altered battlefield, they unleashed a large-scale offensive wood-release technique. If Hashirama Senju could unleash such wide-range, would-release ninjutsu without relying on the enhancement of natural energy, then he could only be called a god. The wood dragon technique, as demonstrated by Hashirama Senju, displays unparalleled vitality and represents powerful binding and attack capabilities. Any enemy entangled by the wood dragon will have a large amount of chakra absorbed instantly. Ao's wood-released chakra is not much compared to Hashirama Senju's, only on par with the power of his three-tomo Sharingen. He can only unleash this move with the aid of Sage Mode. Its scale is several times smaller than Hashirama Senju's wooden dragon technique. It is only a little over a meter in diameter and a dozen meters in length. But that's enough to deal with Pain. After all, he wasn't a supersized creature like a tailed beast. The moment Pain broke free from the attack of the tree world, the wood dragon was already in front of him, and Qing's timing was perfect. It was clear that there was no way to avoid it. Pain immediately turned to the side, his right hand blocking the wooden dragon, his cold palm touching the dragon's surface. Shinra Tensei. He tried again to release the repulsive force. But suddenly, his expression changed drastically. His hands went limp and powerless. A terrifying chakra absorption force emanated from the wooden dragon. Before the chakra within his body could be transformed into the repulsive force of Shinra Tensei, it was completely drained. In just a moment, the wooden dragon coiled around the person like a snake, trapping them firmly in place before rapidly plummeting to the ground. Leader! Sasori of the Red Sand gasped in surprise at the sight, for it was the first time he had ever seen the once arrogant leader of the Akatsuki in such a disheveled state. Wood release. Is this really the #1 bloodline limit in the ninja world? Even those eyes couldn't compare. Although Sasori of the Red Sand was very nervous, he had no intention of helping. He even subconsciously moved away from the battlefield and out of the range of the tree world's attack. Click. Sage art, wood release, wood splintering technique. Qing seized the opportunity and formed the hand seals again. Countless sharp spikes suddenly erupted from the wooden dragon's body, and a thicket of thorns appeared, piercing Pain with holes. Powder. His entire body was instantly torn apart by the thorns formed by the wooden dragon, turning into fragments. The wooden dragon also exploded instantly, forming the final devastating blow. The tattered Akatsuki uniform fluttered in the wind, and a wisp of red cloud slowly landed. Pain's body has disappeared. I managed to seize an opportunity by sheer luck. Pain doesn't understand the characteristics of the wood dragon technique. It probably won't be so easy next time. Teacher. Panting heavily, Ching had nearly exhausted his wood-release chakra after using multiple advanced wood-release ninjutsu for an extended period. But he knew the battle had only just begun. Next, we'll face the fully formed 6 paths of pain. I wonder if we can withstand it. Aren't you going to show yourself? If you don't come soon, you'll lose your most precious disciple. His gaze drifted towards the depths of the valley behind him. Orochimaru should have woken up by now. So many days have passed. The effects of the anesthesia should have worn off long ago. When the soul adapts to the body, they are also able to walk normally. Chapter 49, Orochimaru appears. Bloodline limit elimination. Yuki, take Kimimaro and the others, and leave quickly. Use the secret passage to leave Otagakure. Ching's expression remained unchanged as he loudly issued the order. The battle has only just begun. Pain isn't serious yet. The next thing we'll probably face is a scene where all 6 paths of pain gather together. I don't know if I can handle it. Ching felt a sense of bewilderment. Upon hearing this, Minazuki Yuki immediately took action, scooping the unconscious Kimimaro into her arms, giving Ao a deep look before turning and fleeing to the shrine behind her. Upon seeing this, Sasori of the Red Sand moved slightly and immediately felt a piercing gaze. He instinctively shivered and stopped in his tracks. Wow, that's really strong. Sasori of the Red Sand looked at Uchiha Ao's young face, a deep sense of apprehension flashing across his own. The third Kazekage he controlled was like a toy in front of Pain. But this Uchiha clansman was actually able to defeat Pain. I'm afraid I'm no match for them either. And this person is merely Orochimaru's disciple. So how strong is Orochimaru? Sasori of the Red Sand recalled what Pain had said when he arrived. Find him a partner so they can work together on the mission. Sasori knew in his heart that this partner was most likely Orochimaru. He had also collected a lot of information about Orochimaru in advance and arranged for some people to secretly approach Orochimaru. They figured out the general situation of his Sound village. But unexpectedly, a member of the Uchiha clan, who was not taken seriously, actually displayed such powerful strength. This completely overturned all his expectations. Pain lost. Should I join the Sound village? If this guy really makes a move and I don't surrender, can I withstand it? Sasori of the Red Sand was already thinking about his escape route. A superb attack. I never expected that wood release could absorb chakra. This is the bloodline limit that the god of Shinobi once possessed. I never thought that you, an Uchiha clansman, could be able to fully utilize it. In the distance, a familiar voice came. Sasori looked in the direction of the sound and saw Pain flying rapidly from the horizon. As he landed, it's clear that the person was completely unharmed, as if what just happened was an illusion. I acknowledge your abilities. Join us, or die. Choose one. Pain said coldly, his expression unchanged, as if he wasn't the one who had been torn apart by the wooden dragon. As his words fell, he clasped his hands together, squatted down instantly, and slapped his right palm on the ground. Summoning Jutsu, 6 paths of pain. In an instant, smoke appeared. 5 unfamiliar figures appeared behind Pain. A chilling sense of oppression emanated from everyone. Just one glance. It can make people lose their fighting spirit. Faced with absolute power, there is no thought of resistance. 6 pairs of eyes. Sasori of the Red Sand was completely dumbfounded when he saw this for the first time. Those eyes. Unlike normal pupils, it is clearly an extraordinary bloodline limit that anyone can see. Now suddenly, there are 6 pairs of identical eyes. Hiss! He gasped. That little bit of rebellious thought in my heart vanished instantly. The leader. Orochimaru hasn't shown up yet. It seems he's not planning on a proper exchange. Shall we let them experience some pain? Sasori of the Red Sand spoke loudly again, trying to cover up his earlier thoughts of infidelity with his loud voice. He knew exactly what the leader was thinking, and he only said what the leader liked. Pain glanced at him and nodded slightly. Its body slowly floated into the air. The 6 Pain members who had just appeared scattered instantly. Planetary devastation. Pain clasped his hands together, and a terrifying aura of chakra emanated from his palms. He condensed a black sphere of gravity and instantly tossed it into the air. In an instant, a tremendous gravitational pull came from the sky. Objects on the ground began to float into the sky involuntarily. This force broke the limits of the planet's gravity. Even the forest formed by the wood release. Descent of the tree world was powerless to resist and was easily torn apart, turning into a giant, suspended stone sphere. Ching moved about on each of the flying stones. He moved nimbly. But it keeps rising. If this continues, they will definitely be sealed in midair by the Earth-exploding star. This is unreasonable. Old news coffin lid can't hold down the people of this world. Ao kept muttering to himself, his figure looking disheveled, but his expression remained unchanged, his eyes filled with curiosity and composure about the power of the Rinnegan. Only by experiencing it firsthand can one truly understand the terror of this power. No ninjutsu can withstand such power. Instantaneous movement technique. This technique is like a joke. No matter how you try to escape, you will eventually be sucked in and sealed away. Sage art, fire release, extremely scorching spear. A long spear formed from fire-style magic appeared in his palm, and the scorching aura of the fire-style magic created a heat wave. He doesn't understand the creation of ninjutsu. It is simply a long spear of flame formed by controlling sage chakra with the ultimate power of the soul and injecting it into fire release, compressed to the extreme. The musket, formed from nearly 60% of his chakra, possesses power at least S rank, making it his strongest single-target attack. Its pinpoint attack power is several times greater than that of wood release. While constantly dodging, Ching precisely controlled the chakra that gathered in his palm. This kind of operation puts a lot of mental pressure on people. A heat wave surrounded me. Sweat involuntarily seeped from Ching's forehead. The moment the musket solidified, his figure shot towards the core of the planet Earth explosion in an instant. He knew very well that only by destroying the core black sphere could this spell be ended before the Earth explosion star could be formed on a large scale. But Pain was also aware of this. Just as the blazing spear was about to reach the core, a pumice stone blocked his way. The moment the rock made contact with the azure, it suddenly shattered, forming a white mist. A figure dressed in a long black robe with red clouds suddenly appeared. The man opened his arms and grasped the flaming spear. The once incredibly powerful blazing spear vanished without a trace in just a few breaths. We're doomed. Ching's expression changed slightly, and a flicker of emotion finally appeared on her calm face. Is this really the end for us? A hint of reluctance flashed in his eyes. This body was his original form. With a body possessing Hashirama cells and Uchiha bloodline, further analysis of the secrets of Hashirama cells' bloodline limit will allow us to separate the various chakra attributes that constitute the wood release bloodline limit. In this case, his body already possesses the basic affinity for the 6 elemental attributes: yang release and water release from wood release, yin release from Sharingan, and fire release, earth release, and lightning release from the original body. Only wind release remains to achieve affinity with all attributes. His physical foundation is simply too outstanding. It made him reluctant to give it up. But at the very moment when it was about to be sealed by the planet Earth explosion star, he always has to make a choice. Abandoning their physical bodies, they broke free from the seal of the Earth-exploding star in the form of immortal souls. They burrowed into an underground laboratory, barely clinging to life. At this critical moment, a soft murmur rang out. Tremor release, the technique of the collapse of the mortal realm. Click! The massive meteorite rock, which was expanding continuously, came to a standstill in an instant. Then a crack appeared. The cracks gradually spread, and within a few breaths they turned into shattered stones that fell to the ground, raising clouds of dust. Who's there? What kind of power is this? How is this possible? It directly disintegrated the power of Chibaku Tensei from the inside. Payne's sharp gaze swept over, and he noticed a figure emerging from the smoke and dust. What kind of technique is it? They were actually able to break his strongest move. Payne, whose mind had remained calm throughout the entire battle, was now somewhat flustered by the turmoil in his heart. Oh dear, teacher. If you had come any later, you would have been left only to collect my corpse. Ching fell from midair with a bitter smile. After several awkward rolls, he absorbed the impact of falling from a height of 100 meters, and his body suffered only minor injuries. He lightly brushed the dust off his clothes and approached the smoke. Wait for the smoke to dissipate. A woman with long hair suddenly appeared. Ching is very familiar with it. The woman had hit him before. Her name is Yin. Kingjin, I'm just getting used to my body, aren't I? The bloodline elimination technique you developed is far too complicated to use. The chakra nature transformations of the three attributes, lightning, earth, and wind, are fused in a ratio of 4-3-3-1-2-6. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly difficult to execute. Even for me, it took several hours to get the hang of it. Orochimaru spread his hands, a smile on his face, and said helplessly. His words were full of boasting about his talent. The body he now possesses is a completely new vessel. The escape technique is the result of Ching's research over the past 3 years. Orochimaru was reborn into the same vessel as the girl with the same voice. In the 3 years that followed, she completed a grueling training program to meet Orochimaru's demands, doing everything in her power to fulfill whatever Ao asked for. Ultimately, under Ao's guidance, they successfully fused with a brand new bloodline limit, shock release. Chapter 50, Orochimaru leaves. Zhendun, Chinese letter, Chinese letter. It was the first time that its talent was revealed. This intimidated Pain, preventing him from moving. Payne's figure slowly descended from midair, with 5 figures gathering behind him. Orochimaru's appearance brought peace to the battlefield once again. Sasori of the Red Sand closely followed Payne's location, and the two confronted each other at a distance of less than 20 meters. Boss, what did Orochimaru just do? Sasori of the Red Sand hadn't quite figured out the situation yet, and hadn't realized the power of the tremor release. In fact, the ninjutsu used by both sides had exceeded the norm. He couldn't understand it at all, only that Pain seemed to be at a disadvantage. Pain ignored Sasori of the Red Sand. You're Orochimaru. A look of surprise crossed his eyes. Orochimaru is a woman. It seems that among the legendary Sannin, only Tsunade is a woman, but Orochimaru's current physique and appearance make it hard to believe that he is a man. Slim waist, large breasts, and a voluptuous figure. She had fair skin and long, flowing hair. More womanly than a woman. Right. What do you want from me? Orochimaru asked in surprise. Upon first meeting Pain, he was immediately drawn to his peculiar eyes. A surge of greed welled up inside me. These eyes must represent some special bloodline limit. His gaze involuntarily fell upon Uchiha, and he asked in a low voice, Ao-kun, let me ask you a question. Do you know about this person's bloodline limit? Rinnegan. Ching slowly uttered a word. It instantly stunned Orochimaru. Is this the Rinnegan? The legendary power of the Six Paths, the sage's power recorded in the Ninshu historical records kept by the Senju clan. Orochimaru's pupils contracted. He initially thought it was some kind of special bloodline limit, but he never expected it to be the legendary sage's eye. This is much rarer than the Sharingan. Orochimaru, I've heard you've been spying on our organization. Today I'm giving you a choice. Join us or die. Pain composed himself and spoke in a cold tone. Although Orochimaru broke through Chibaku Tensei in one strike, he was not entirely without confidence in this battle. Orochimaru stared greedily into Pain's 6 pairs of eyes. As long as you snatch a pair. The thought of possession instantly flooded his mind, and he quickly put it into action. His hands moved rapidly, forming hand seals. They launched the attack directly. Join. Hi. What I want are these eyes. Earthquake escape, a tremor that shakes the earth and mountains. By using the hand seals of the Earth Flow River to unleash the tremor release, a completely new form of ninjutsu was formed. Even Orochimaru himself felt a sense of surprise. A terrifying shockwave shot along the ground straight to Pain's feet. This kind of attack, which directly affects the environment, is something that the hungry ghost realm simply cannot block. With a wave of his hand, Pain sent everyone around him plummeting into the air. The ground collapsed. It formed a deep pit. The tremor release technique. Its attack method is rather limited. Ching commented from the side that this was the first time he had ever seen the tremor release technique in actual combat. This level of attack is only comparable to some B-rank ninjutsu. It even has significant limitations. However, when he thought Orochimaru was merely using a tremor release ninjutsu, a long sword suddenly appeared in Orochimaru's palm. Shock release, sky blade sword pressure. The blade pierced out instantly. It pierced directly in front of Pain. Shinra Tensei. With a single hand, Pain knocked the Kusanagi sword away. But before he could finish the spell, the blade of the Kusanagi sword suddenly released a terrifying shockwave, tearing a pressure wave through the void. He actually used the Kusanagi sword to transfer the power of his tremor release to Pain's side. The trembling air directly formed a terrifying sword pressure. Drink. Upon seeing this, a large number of mechanisms emerged from Shura Dao's back, instantly releasing multiple rockets that directly blocked the sword in midair, creating a violent explosion. Tremor release, hidden shadow serpent burial. Countless long snakes emerged from Orochimaru's long sleeves, carrying the unique chakra of tremor release, and rapidly approached Pain. Shinra Tensei. It's the same trick again. Pain deflected all of Orochimaru's attacks. Is this guy that troublesome? He can actually deflect all attacks. Orochimaru stopped what he was doing and raised his hands in a show of weakness. There's no point in continuing the fight. The newly reborn vessel is not yet fully compatible and requires further adjustment. His physical condition did not allow him to use chakra for extended periods. Orochimaru, surrender. The Akatsuki and Pain are not forces that your small village can withstand. Seeing this, Sasori of the Red Sand immediately spoke up. After realizing the limitations of Orochimaru's tremor release, his apprehension lessened considerably. With Orochimaru's abilities, they are not much different from themselves. By simply paying attention to the ground environment and avoiding direct close combat with Orochimaru, the power of the tremor release can be greatly limited. I've heard that your organization possesses many rare bloodline limit ninjas, which is why I took notice of you, but I don't have any information on you. Who are you? Orochimaru nodded, without denying it. This was indeed something he instructed his subordinates to do. He was very aware of this. His reincarnation vessel requires a special bloodline limit for fusion experiments, so for the past 3 years he has been helping Ao collect various bloodline limits from the ninja world to provide him with inspiration. Upon hearing these words, Sasori's stiff expression changed slightly, and his eyes seemed to spit flames. He quickly formed hand seals, trying to regain his footing. Scorpion, stop! Pain shouted, stopping Scorpion's actions. Now, what do you say? If you refuse again, I will have no choice but to destroy you along with this village. He glanced at Orochimaru, and a hint of apprehension flashed across his face as he swept his gaze over Ao's figure. This Uchiha clan member will definitely become the biggest threat to the Akatsuki organization in the future. Perhaps we could hand him over to that mysterious masked man to handle. Pain had some plans in mind. He watched Orochimaru with outward composure, but exuded immense pressure. Orochimaru pondered for a moment, then finally bowed his head and said, Leader Pain, I, Orochimaru, am willing to join the Akatsuki. But the Sound Village will operate independently. They will not join you with me. He made a condition. The Sound Village was a base he had painstakingly built, and in addition, several other branch bases were also being secretly established. We cannot let the Akatsuki organization be destroyed. Ching, the village is now in your hands. After Orochimaru finished speaking, he turned around and patted Ao on the shoulder, placing the heavy responsibility on Ao's shoulders. This time, he did not act frivolously and became very serious. He patted his pockets and found nothing he wanted. He gave an awkward smile, then said to Ching, Ching, all the village's savings are in my original body. You must manage the village well. If I can no longer stay in the Akatsuki, I will come back to find you. Having said that, he walked toward Pain. Uchiha Ao, what do you think? Seeing that Orochimaru was sensible, Pain nodded in satisfaction, then looked at Ao and asked. Forget it. Ching waved his hand. I still have to help my teacher protect this village. He refused again. There are no benefits to joining the Akatsuki organization. After Orochimaru left, he became the first person in Otogakure to conduct his own experimental research.